Us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to the Tuesday, June 11th meeting of the Sydney City Council, the greatest city in the world. We are going to start with Finding Things At, which is posted right there on the wall. And then we will go for the approval of the meeting minutes that I was not at and unable to give my phone number 249-2321 at. So we have a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I'll move.
Motion by Bondegard,
I'll second.
second by Stroman. Roll call, please.
Stroman,
Yes.
Buckner,
Yes.
Sherman,
Abstain.
Radcliffe,
Abstain.
Bonnegar.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 3-0. All the people that were here tonight.
Yes.
All right. I understand there might be a few people. There may be some people wanting to talk about item number 4 on our agenda. So the comments to the public, number 3, will just be for things that are not on the agenda, if you want to bring our attention to. Otherwise, we will allow people to come up, announce themselves, and take 2 or 3 minutes to say your piece of your thoughts on that subject. So, with that being said, are there any comments by the public? All right. We will move right in to item number 4, Economic Development Tool, Placer AI. This is Brandy Stone.
Hi guys. So last time we brought this up, 2 meetings ago, we asked to get a demonstration from Placer AI. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll move into, if you have any questions, I've got a couple things I can follow it up with, should need be. But you got Rodney on there? This is Rodney Frazier, and he is Placer AI's representative.
Hello.
Hey everyone, can you hear me and let me know if you can see me, and more importantly, if you can see my screen here. It should say Civic Solutions.
Yep.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Fantastic. Well, thanks everyone for the time today. Certainly don't want to take too much of y'all's time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. What I had planned for you all is just to do a quick background as far as who Placer is, what is the data that we were working with, how are other cities and quite frankly companies across the country utilizing it, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the platform and look at some quick examples here. So without further ado, we'll kind of jump in and give the background here. So Placer, the best way to describe Placer, the platform is, Placer is a web-based market intelligence platform powered by mobile data. So what we've basically done, we've gone out and partnered with a number of different app partners to leverage a panel of roughly tens of millions of devices, and we then utilize machine learning to make estimations for visits to locations across the country, right? And so as we sit today, Placer requires, and moving forward, its data partners to get consent in accordance with applicable law, both from a state privacy perspective across all these number of different rules and regulations here in the United States and globally, but also on the device side, right? There's been new rules and regulations that have popped up from the device side, most notably with Apple and Google last summer. And so when we say certain locations, right, they're commercial based. So things like parks, we can look at events, downtown areas, and more of a tourism perspective to help make business decisions across the city or across company-led departments here. So what we basically do is we provide smart predictions based off that sample set to analyze locations across different audiences. So this is being used as a critical decision-making processes from a civic perspective, to attract things like the right businesses to their cities, driving event success, boosting tourism, and much more. And so a big point of what makes Placer different is that we don't collect, sell, share anyone's individual personally information. Placer customers are not able to identify any individual person or otherwise receive personal data by using Placer services, and that's the big distinguishing factor between Placer and if you've ever heard of other foot traffic data providers in that space. So the reason why our success is because of that. We work with over 3,000 active customers today, not just in the civic space. When you think about some of the largest and smallest retailers all across the country, from Dollar General to Family Dollar, Whole Foods, GNC, Best Buy, and Target. We work with folks on the commercial real estate side, so when they make decisions as far as leasing, development, acquisitions, entertainment, when you think about even like the likes of the Nebraska State Fair or pro minor league sports teams like the Omaha Storm Chasers, Disney, Coca-Cola utilizes our data, but we do work with over 1,000 different municipalities across the country, whether that's cities, counties, economic development organizations, chambers, DMOs, parks and rec teams. So that can range anywhere from some of the most remote locations, like the town of Red River out in New Mexico, has a population of less than 500, all the way up in some of the most populous and everything in between. So when we think about why cities, civic leaders, municipalities of all sizes partner with Placer and how they start to utilize our data, it really does fall within any one of these 9 buckets here. So, you know, I've had a lot of great conversations with the team there, kind of looking at this from, whether it's from the tourism side, understanding the event analysis, but also looking at things like retail analysis and recruitment, or workforce attraction, economic recovery and growth, and supporting local business. So I'm sure some of these touch some different folks, what they're focused on here in the meeting here, but just for awareness, this is how our cities and civic leaders are utilizing the data today. So before we jump into the platform, any questions with what I just went through?
Continue.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and we can start to look at some data here. So this is Placer's Explorer View. It works the exact same way as Google Maps would. Where basically we can search for any property, whether it's by nearby address. I kind of just already cheated and is already over the city here. But basically everything is based off of geofences or polygons that we can draw, right? So whether we want to look at the fairgrounds, we looked at a couple of different parks throughout our conversations. Where we can just draw a geofence here. Apologies about my internet, it's been killing me today. We can come in and draw a geofence, whether it's a downtown or a park, an event, to get better information as to what's happening within that location. So let's just, for time's sake, let's use the county fairgrounds here as an example. And so with this, as we load up our report here, you know, in one view of Placer, we can look up to 8 properties in one glance, whether it's 8 separate locations in and outside of the city, or the same location compared to itself over 8 different time frames, because Placer does have data that goes back to January 1st of 2017. So if we want to understand trends as far as what's working and what's not, as driving economic value or tourism or events, all these things that we're doing from a city perspective, or are we back to our pre-COVID numbers even, so we can understand that. And the data is uploaded every single day on a 3 to 4 day lag period. Because we want to make decisions with this data, whether it's for marketing or there's an event we want to analyze, or hey, we're redoing a road. What's the impact it's having on our small business? As an example, we can understand that. So let's leave it just as for the last 12 months, and we'll touch on our metrics section here. This is really the bread and butter of our data, right? It's essentially where we get the phrase foot traffic data from, or how many people visited the fairgrounds and how many times they visited. So first, we'll call it panel visits. This is going to refer back to that number of mobile phones that we talked about, right? Our ground truth data. It's what we know to be true. And so what we do very well here at a high degree of accuracy through those algorithms and machine learning is that we take our panel visits number and extrapolate it out to account for the rest of the U.S. population and get to our visitors and visit numbers. So visitors is going to refer to the unique singular people that have been there once in the last 12 months. Visits refers to how many times they visited. So as an example, let's say I went to like 3 different events over the last year. I would be counted for 3 for visits, but 1 time for visitors. So whether it's from sponsorships or understanding, hey, this is drawing in people to the city, or from the fair, right? We can see what worked or what didn't, how is visitation performing over time. Not only looking at these raw numbers, but how are we trending year over year? Right, visitation's up 15% year over year. It's up 11% over 2 years, and up 172% over 3 years, which makes sense, right? That's still grabbing that COVID year here. Well, what drove us to our nearly 50,000 visits over the last 12 months? Each point within this graph is going to represent a specific day. So we can clearly see here the biggest events, Saturday, October 7th, about 6,600 people.
So, can I ask a question?
already have this data. So you're not going to be going in, this isn't, you're going to be accessing people's phones. It's not an app that people have to put on their phones. You've already aggregated this data, and over time, you're going to continue to aggregate this data through yourselves and possibly third-party data providers?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it already exists today.
Okay,
where
so I
everything
think
is-
I think that's important for people to understand, that we're not going out and we're not putting something on their phone. This is something that you guys already have in place, and you have so much data already from the area that you can show us what's been going on since 2017, essentially, in Cheyenne County. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, correct. Yeah, we're not, is that what you said? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
We're not putting anything on people's phones. If they are a part of our panel, they have to opt in twice for consent languages, and we comply with all these different rules and regulations. But you're exactly correct, right? This is statistical data that's
So
been aggregated across locations for commercial use, like your
So-
downtown, or if you want to understand what your grocery store is performing, or like the fairgrounds. You're
So
correct.
you've aggregated the data, we're buying that data from you so that we can better understand what's going on in our community.
Correct, yeah, so when people sign on to Placer, we're not connected to any city data or are connected to your systems at all. Basically, you log in like you would Facebook. You have a username and password, and you get the exact same view I do. So we can log in and look at this data here.
How has that,
It's called an SD.
how has that data been collected?
My understanding, I did some research, you guys are in a number of apps, is that correct? Your software development kit goes into certain apps, and those apps will then aggregate that. You can opt in or out, basically saying that, would you like to be tracked, kind of question that you get every once in a while on your phone?
Correct. Yep, so if that's
that
off,
right?
you're not a part of our panel.
So do you,
It's already here, it's already on your phone,
right.
you already got it.
Does it,
We're just,
does it
we're just,
differentiate
Do you have to
between
opt out of every app?
someone local and someone from out of town?
I guess that would be a question for, can you differentiate between local people and people out of town?
Sure, yeah, so if you wanted to understand how many people came to the fair that live, let's say, 50 miles away, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. But this
Yeah,
isn't
we-
new data. We're not tracking people that already haven't opted into this, correct?
Correct, yes, yeah, so, to touch on that further, there are a number of different privacy regulations that are popping up across, the country here. California's really leading the charge, it's called CCPA, it's probably the most strict compliance rule and regulation in the country. We of course comply with that, we comply with all different privacy regulations here, locally and across the globe, even though we don't have to. And then on the other side of the fence, the iOS devices themselves, like your Apple, if you're an Apple user, or like the Android, or if you have a Google phone, have enacted similar standards and regulations. So we're complying with all that. We get consents for everyone that basically opts into the service to be a part of our panel. We use that as a basis, and then through statistical, sorry, that's a hard word for me to say, algorithms and machine learning, we account for the rest of the U.S. population to give that full picture.
Okay, and then anybody, let me make sure, I just want to make sure that that I'm correct on this. It's not just a civic application. Anybody in the city of Sydney that owns a business that wanted this data could go out, approach you guys, and then buy this package, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, so we have
So
Whole
you
Foods,
could do it.
Publixes of the
we could
world,
do
the
it at
Dollar
the
Generals.
store.
We also have local restaurants that maybe have 2 Ace Hardwares use this data. We have like the Nebraska State Fair, Omaha Storm Chasers, just thinking locally. Like casinos use this data, airports, hotels. So yeah, anyone with a commercial use can get access to the data.
Can you describe the opt-out process?
Yeah, so it's just if you don't have location services turned on, you're not a part of our panel.
So if you turn on locations, then you're essentially opting in, or?
So and again, we don't partner with all the applications in the world, right? We have a select few that we
So in order to opt out, you have to turn off your location services. So say if you're in the family plan where you are monitoring your kids or something like that, and you have locations turned on, then essentially you guys have the option to track even though we don't want to be tracked.
So not necessarily. It's at the app level, so it's nothing with like AT&T or Verizon or anything like that. It's at the app level. So when you download that, like if you download an app and it says, "Hey, would you like to share your location services?" You hit no, right? You would not be included.
So you would have to essentially opt out of every app in order to not be a part of your panel that you guys are part of.
Not necessarily. I would say not every app you have to have location services turned on. And it's typically when you download the app, it's asked you if you want to share location services. If you do, and it's part of our panel, then you would. If you don't, then you wouldn't.
Can
So
I
it's
take
really
a
up
crack
to
at
the
the
user.
answer? Hey, Rodney, it's Corey Keene. I'm gonna take a crack at the answer. You have 50 apps on your phone. Placer may partner with 10 of those. You would have to go through the terms and conditions and privacy policy of all 50 apps to verify if they're one of them that is included in selling third-party data. So when you blindly accept an app, there's a chance that Placer now has access to third-party data.
That's what I was getting at
Or
exactly.
It's not just Placer, though. There's
No,
a
no,
myriad
there's-
of.
No, but we're only
myriad
dealing
of
with Placer.
companies
Yeah,
that
yeah,
do this,
yeah.
right?
Placer is one of,
But we're only dealing with places,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah.
But that's what I was getting at. You would have to go through every app that's on your phone to see if they're sharing that third-party information in order to opt out of their panel, if they're using that app.
Correct.
So even if you were to catch one and they were using this one, then you would still be a part of their
Right.
panel,
Potentially.
potentially, okay. So it's not as easy as just opting out of their process, okay. I just wanted that to be clear, that it's not just, oh, you can just opt out of this. It's not just that. You have to actively go in there and go through all of your apps and everything else to opt out. And then anything new that you would download, you would have to make sure that it's not part of their panel.
But that's still ancillary to the data side of it.
I understand,
So
but I mean-
We're just buying the data so that
Right.
we can better understand what happens in the community. They're doing what they're doing to collect that data, and what they do on their back end doesn't affect the data that we collect.
What I'm getting at is that we don't want it just to sound like these people can just opt out, like, all I got to do is say no to
Right,
AXCI.
but they're already, I mean.
They are, but
And there's
it's not, I'm just saying it's not that simple. That's
Yeah.
all that's
Okay.
what I wanted. It's not as simple as just saying, I don't want to do this. You have to be active and go through all these apps and actively look to see if you are still on their panel because you're playing Tetris and they're not, but you opted out of that, but you downloaded Mario Brothers and they are.
Yeah, and but there could still be another
There could-
50 other
could still
companies
be.
that are doing it.
Understood, but we're dealing with these guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, all good questions. Anything else before I dive in here?
Nope.
Okay, fantastic. So, whether it's tourism, event-based, right? We can start to show you know, who's using or who's like where they're coming from. You know, how many visits are we getting from? Sorry about this. Of course, it stalls out at the best times. Now, how many visits are we getting from Sterling that are coming to our events or from our downtown or these different areas? Right, we can kind of see this heat map, or you will here in a second, to identify these key markets, whether it's for marketing purposes, economic impact, or from like a developer investor standpoint. You know, typically, you know, when we think about economic impact or development, it's, hey, this is what's happening within a ring radius as far as addressable population, if you want to look at rent or statistics or demographics, or let's say unmet demand of, I always like to pick on grocery stores, right? It's at that static level of within a radius or drive time, but now with mobile data, we can give you a better look as to what's actually happening for your trade area of the fairgrounds here. So let's zoom back in. And what we're going to do here, maybe I apologize about this. My internet here. And what we could do is a number of different things of understanding, okay, how well is retail performing in our area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn on our properties tab. I'm telling the system here is, hey, just give me the top 10 best performing or companies in this view, and show me how they rank within their category within the state here. All right, we can see our Cabela's is the 10th most visited out of 64 in the state. This McDonald's is the 96th most visited fast food location, right? So as we think about selling the area, or a lot of times when I work with smaller communities, whether maybe it's from a developer, or hey, we need another grocery store, it's hey, maybe you don't have enough rooftops. Well, as we kind of seen today, that's not really telling the story. We're getting a lot of visits to fairgrounds. We can look at the downtown or the city as a whole. But then, our retail is performing very well relative to maybe some larger cities, right, that's just not performing as well. And that this really helps tell the story as to what's actually happening here. So for instance, this Safeway, 385,000 visits over the last 12 months. It's the 80th most visited grocery store in the state. So as you think about visitation data, especially like on the tourism side or chamber or these events, so we can show you where else, all these people that are coming to the fairgrounds, where else are they going, right? Where are they eating, right? If they're, we're attracting 20,000 people to the city or 10,000 people for a particular reason, they're not just going home immediately after. What's the economic impact of their visit? So we can show you things like, hey, do they go to the Walmart, or do they stay at our hotel? Do they go to a grocery store or a dining restaurant? So we can start to show that and show the economic impact that, hey, what we're doing from an event standpoint, economic impact is actually bringing money, and we can make decisions with this data to ultimately boost those small businesses here. So obviously there's a lot more to the data. I want to be sensitive of everyone's time today. Brandy, was there anything else that you think I should show while we still have a minute or two?
I think a lot of it comes down to the questions you guys might have.
Okay.
I have one question. As far as visits go, I think I heard you say this right. There is some extrapolation going on there, right? That's where the AI piece comes into this. Because not everybody has their phone turned on, so it attempts to predict how many people visited. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So our our panel is around 20 million mobile devices. So think of that as, what is that, less than 8% of the U.S. population. Another way to think about Placer does very similar things as Nielsen does. You're familiar with what Nielsen does. But you're exactly correct. So we take our panel visits number, the data that we know to be true, we then extrapolate it out to account for the rest of the U.S. population.
Okay.
To get to our visitors and visits. I think off that question, maybe some people are thinking, I'll go ahead and address it, is what about the accuracy? I would say we're never going to be 100% accurate. I hope, that's just not, it's basically impossible for anything to be 100% accurate, but what we are going to be is 95% accurate, right? 95 to 98% accurate. We backtest our data against our retail partners like Publix and TJX, Dollar General, Best Buy, and Target that use camera counters. Like the State Fair of Texas, we backtested against their sales, like casinos that know everyone that goes down to the gaming floor, and we're consistently between that 95 and 98% correlation here.
Okay.
I just want to confirm, Rodney, you guys are currently working with Dawes County, Grow, Grand Island, and North Platte, right?
Yes.
And I've got their input on the tool as well, if you want to hear that. Not North Platte. I just heard about it recently, but the other two spoke freely of it, and both tourism and economic development had input for it.
And just for awareness, right, if we want to look at, some other things with Placer as far as like who's coming to our events this area, as far as like demographics go, or what area analysis is things like vehicle traffic volume, things like plane development, what's being developed across, town down the street, as well as a lot of different tools here, like our travel and tourism dashboard. What are those top, how many visits are we getting from Dallas and Texas that we can start to serve out ads to? Or can we start to predict bed tax within the area or these different areas across all these different reports that you have access to? But certainly don't need to go through them all. I know that your time is of course valuable. I'm sure you got 1,000 things to get to today, but happy to leave it here unless you all have any more questions for me here.
Are we good with Rodney?
Would he feel comfortable if maybe a couple other people had questions for him? Is there anybody else that has a question that they'd like to ask Randy before we let him go?
I have one question.
Eric, you want to step up to the mic? I'm sorry. I should make everybody do that so that we can hear everybody better.
The question I have is, you launched your platform in November of 18, but you're collecting data clear back to January of 17. So I'm having trouble reconciling that. How are you collecting data before you even launched your platform? Did you buy it?
I'm sorry?
He asked if you bought
Speak,
that
speak,
data
ask-
from
ask-
between 2017
Did you
and
buy the
2018.
data between November of 18 and January of 17?
Yeah, so it.
So you're buying data?
We're collecting, yeah, so part of the statistical analysis is historic data, right, to understand.
Now, gentlemen, as a government entity, do you want to buy data from the
We
people?
have to hear him.
Yeah, just let him.
Well, I'm having a hard time hearing him, so.
That's all right. We'll let you know when he's done.
Yeah, so the historical data point, we looked at historical data in order to accurately predict what's going to be going on in the future. So that's why it took us a year to think about things like commercial use, what we want to display, collect that data so it can be statistically significant for the launch there.
I'm only getting part of it.
Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he said, yes, they did get the data. And you have another question, or you'd like to say something?
No, that's
You
it.
said that they use that data so that they.
Speaking to the mic, Paul.
Oh, sure. Well, you can't hear me through there.
Yeah, it's going.
Go, can you hear me? So he said that they used, am I correct about this? You used that data that you collected for a year in order to build your algorithm?
Correct, yeah, basically historical significance in order to think about things moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it just concerns me they're buying data. That's what we're doing here, we're buying data. And as a government entity, I have a problem with that. I think a lot of people would too if they understood it. I don't know how you guys feel. I came here to try and get some information, and I appreciate you guys holding the forum, and I wanted to listen to what he had to say. That's my biggest concern
Right.
as a citizen.
Yeah, no, and I
So-
appreciate that.
So, cool. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for Randy? I do. Amanda?
I'm quite a bit shorter. So I wanted to thank you for bringing the information to us, but I just wanted to clarify what I think I'm understanding, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so what we are deciding, or our city council, excuse me, is deciding is whether or not to purchase access to your services. The data being collected has already been collected and will continue to be collected whether or not we purchased access to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
But you don't have access to it.
All right, does anybody else have a question for Randy before we let him go? Or Rodney, excuse me.
It's okay, I'll answer anything. Awesome, well, thanks everyone for the time today, greatly appreciate it. Brandy, let me know if there are any other questions that come up that I can help with, but thank you all for the interest and for the time.
Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so on top of doing the demo with Placer, we had asked for third-party input to the tool. Do you want to go over any of that?
Sure.
All right, so Dawes County, which up in Shadron. I spoke with them, pulled some notes from it. Economic Development has found it useful so far. It's been used since December for them, so they're still pretty new to it. Use it to focus on their major events to see how many people are showing up, like he showed there, and then it helps them justify their grant giving to different businesses and organizations based on the information they're able to get from it. I talked to both tourism and economic development. And then for Grow Grand Island, and these were the two I was able to get to contact me back before we had another meeting. They spoke to the fact that the info comes from other industries and entities that people have already shared their data with. So as we discussed, it's already been collected and it will continue to be collected. It's just on us to decide if we want that information, if we want to get that information from them,
And anybody in this room could access that information if they wanted to pay for the service.
if they wanted to pay, yes. Now in Grand Island, it,
Commercial,
sorry, what?
maybe commercial.
There's
I
a
don't
single
believe
user
now is
license.
appropriate time for comments.
There's a single user license as well, and you can use personal as well. It has limited data sets. So you wouldn't have to spend 10 grand if you were interested in grocery store traffic.
And that brings it to, as well, for Grow Grand Island, they're spending a lot more on their license because they're sharing it between city economic development, which for them is a separate entity, chamber, and tourism. So they spend a lot more on their license than we would spend on ours.
I'm sorry, so depending on what size or what you do, there's a different charge for that? Is that what you're saying?
It depends on the number of logins. So we wouldn't have near as many logins as they have over in Grand Island.
Oh, I
We would
see what
have
you're saying.
2.
Now, Corey, you looked at the privacy piece of this, right? Can you give us a little bit more clarity on that?
You want me to come up and speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thanks.
So for those that don't know, Corey Keene, local technologist, trying to help out. So my role tonight will be, just for clarity, will be to answer questions related to technology, and in hopes that you guys can make the best decisions. So I'll remain unbiased and factual, and if I don't know the answer to a question, I will say so. So what specifically, Paul, are you asking about?
Just the privacy, I think the concern that people have is that they're going to be able to track individuals and that you're going to be able to know what that individual, where they spend their money, where they're going, where they're eating, how they're spending their time. Is that something that, on an individual basis, I'm going to be able to know what you are doing? That any individual in this room, that I can pick them out of a crowd and look at their specific data?
Okay, is it okay if I spend a little bit of time to address the question in depth?
Sure.
Okay, so what they're doing is they're collecting what they're calling anonymized data. So it's cleansed data where it does not include PII, but it does include things like household spend, if they have that information, right? Some of those things that you opt into in some apps that track location as well as spend. If you double click and pay on your phone, some of those apps collect that, so they have that information. They have gender, they have a few other things. Be very clear about what you can see in the tool. What you can't see is that Brock went into the hospital last week and was there for 5 hours, right? You can see that traffic went to the hospital in some capacity, as an example, but you wouldn't be able to see individual information. But it's demographic information, and it's large data set information showing trends, not individuals. Does that answer?
Yep, 100%.
So it wouldn't be able to say Brock used Apple Pay to buy some Pumas.
No,
It would just say Apple Pay was used on this date and time to purchase this item.
correct. And things like data that, I'll use the fairgrounds as an example because it's an easy one, and he pulled it up. You could see that out of the 14,000 people that came in July, 9,000 of them came from Scotts Bluff, when maybe all of our marketing efforts were pushed at Sterling and only 4,000 came from Sterling. So how they know that is check-ins on your phone, location data, and algorithms that they talked about, and machine learning. So an example would be, it's probably pretty safe to assume that at 8 p.m. at night, if my location is in Sidney, Nebraska, and it's still in Sidney, Nebraska 12 hours later throughout the night, consistently 7 days a week for the most part, it's probably safe to say that this individual probably lives in Sidney, which is how they're getting regional information as well.
So they are looking at you individually, they're just taking that data and putting it into a pool.
Yeah, it's anonymized where I can't see the actual individual. I'm looking at a larger group of individuals.
But they can see the individual. They can track,
I don't know if they can. I don't work for Placer, and I don't know what data they get sent into them, if it's already cleansed by the time they get it. I just know what
something
the tool
somewhere is
provides.
looking at the individual,
Your app is, that you opt
that
into.
app, right?
Yep.
And it's saying, it may say Brock did this, but by the time it gets to AI, whatever, it's anonymous.
Yeah.
But somebody somewhere, the app, third party, whatever, is looking at your individual stuff.
The app is looking at the individual stuff and has that access. That's accurate. So let me give a real-life example that is in Sydney that we're probably mostly all familiar with. Is everybody mostly familiar with the Santa truck?
Oh, yeah.
Drives around, visits homes. They use an app called Life 360 to do that. And you get sent a code, and you type the code in, and you hit accept. I'm okay sharing my location and viewing locations. When you do that, that is an app that Placer uses. That is one of their partners. And that is data that you're then opting into sharing to a third party. I would venture to guess that most people don't click terms and conditions and scroll down through the 238 pages of stuff to understand what they're agreeing to. But when they hit accept, that's what they're agreeing to.
So that's kind of my concern is, I don't, not me personally, whatever, the individual doesn't want to opt into Placer, but they effectively have to opt into Placer if they want to do business with the Santa truck.
If they opt into the Santa truck, they would be opting into
To Placer.
something like Placer and probably 100 others.
100 other, but I'm
Yeah.
only dealing with Placer because that's who we have in
Yep.
front of us, so I'm sure there's,
Yes, and you're accurate to say they probably don't know that they're opting into that. That would be accurate.
that's my concern is that somebody is saying, you know, I don't want to be a part of Placer, and I went through the 50 apps or whatever, and I thought I cleared out, oh, the Santa truck. And they go in and now they're doing business with Placer. So it's like, what, I guess the question would be, you don't have an option to not deal with Placer at some point in time? Based on your app usage, there's, at some point in time, like, what percentage of a chance that you might end up being on their panel and being tracked?
So it's a hard question to answer, right? I'm giving my opinion.
But
And my opinion is that that's not my responsibility or yours to manage every single individual in the United States and how they opt into apps or not opt in.
right, my
But-
concern is the people who are not trying to opt in, but have to opt in because they want to deal with something locally here in town.
Yeah, I would say optionally, I know the gal that runs that. I'm sure she would be willing to send you a text message or call you when she's 15 minutes out, if that's of concern.
It's not just local apps.
It's not, it's.
No.
Everything on your phone is tracked.
Yeah.
I understand it, I'm just saying, again, the local Santa truck. You know, you have people who are like, okay, I did this.
That's an easy example.
It's an easy example, right?
Another example would be if you download the Domino's app and say, allow location, yes, Sydney's my closest one. Or Walmart, allow location, yes, Sydney's my closest Walmart for order pickup. I mean, the list goes on, right? We could go through each individual's phone in here and spend hours trying to figure out which one's which, but.
Again, I just want people to understand, it's not just as simple as saying a one-button opt-out type situation.
There are location
May end up doing
services.
business with them at some point in time.
We were talking in the crowd, breaking the rules. Speaking of rules, like, could you turn the air conditioner on? He's running a tight ship. Jeez, Scott, it's like boiling us out here.
Saving money.
Just trying to save money. You can on your phone globally turn off location services, right? Chances are, a lot of those apps, when you download one 3 weeks later and it says, would you like to allow location services? When you click allow, again, you don't know what you're allowing. It actually turns it on for your entire phone, and all that stuff comes back on. So it's a really tricky
Right.
situation. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's 100 companies out there that are aggregating data. These guys are a data aggregation system.
Yeah.
And we're just buying the data from them. So we're not allowing them, they're not doing something they're not already doing.
Yeah,
They're
I
already
think-
doing this,
I think we
and
covered that, right? Yeah, they're-
Somebody else can go out and buy this and utilize it. And make positive use out of it and try and help the economics of the city or town, business or community.
Yeah, anybody has access to it.
Okay.
That's accurate, yeah. What other questions can I try to answer?
I don't have any more
I
of
don't,
those.
yeah.
I got another question. So what it appears Corey's saying is this thing is pretty much a bear trap for information. So no matter what you do, and I think Councilman Buckner makes a good point, no matter what you do, you can't turn this thing off, the data. But the thing is, the government does not have access to the information. You're purchasing it. So that, again, that's a different, this is not the private sector, Paul. You are a government entity purchasing information on the citizens. California is now testing using information tracking on how they're going to tax people on where they drive and how much they drive and get away with the gas tax. So it's not so much right now what I'm concerned about. It's 5 and 10 years down. It's the slippery slope. It's what can of worms do we open with this thing? That's my concern as a citizen. So I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could the councilman speak into their microphones more? I'm having a hard time hearing today.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody in council have any other questions for Corey?
No.
Corey, we certainly appreciate your
Okay.
expertise and knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
That's all I had for you, unless there was something else I'm missing.
I just wonder, is the economic value going to be there if we purchase this?
I believe so. I did 2 demos with him, and I think I spoke to this before. I did the first demo, and I wasn't sold at all. I couldn't figure out how it would help us with economic impacts. But the second time, he showed us how we could compare our city to others, and then see why people are leaving. So we know people have to go to Sterling for stuff that we don't have here yet, stuff in Cheyenne that we don't have here yet. So if we can compile that information and then show the right people, if you bring your business to Sydney, here's the numbers. So I'm just looking for numbers to back me up. But I know it'll also help tourism, who might have a couple things to say about how it'll help with them too. It would very much be a partnership. And once the chamber stuff is straightened out, then I think they would maybe be interested in coming in on it.
And you're looking at a 1 year.
1 year at a time.
Try
Yep.
this thing out, see if it works.
Yep.
$7,000
For our portion, yes.
for our portion, okay.
Trial.
Trial and error. If it doesn't give us what we want, then we say no next year.
I don't have any questions.
I don't.
Does anybody else have questions?
So I guess just to recap maybe for everybody, we are wanting to purchase some data, not only us, but the county also wants to help, or wants to be part of this, right? Is that correct?
Tourism, yes.
Tourism, I'm sorry. And to look at information, I thought that was extremely helpful to see that 6,000 people had been to Oktoberfest. I don't know if anybody would have guessed that or not, but I can see the usefulness of it. I think we probably still have some concerns. I don't know. One of the concerns I get most often is, it's, and I think it was explained rather well, that they're not going to put a device in the middle of town that starts tracking people. What everybody is already allowed on their phone to be able to track has already been tracked. That information's there, and we're just regathering it. From a security standpoint, I don't see any issues with it. I don't know Anybody else got that impression that it was going to create any security issues, personal identification, personal information kind of things? Has tourism had some discussions and thoughts about it? Would you like to address us, Kendra?
Sure.
We want to get all the information we possibly can.
Kendra Mitchell, Cheyenne County Tourism Director. Our Visitors Committee did review this program and vote to help support the purchase of this program with economic development at our meeting in May. Yeah, this is June. Yes, May's meeting. And this is something we've been looking at since last fall. I've done at least 4 demos with Rodney over the last few years, or last 8 months, I guess. Back when Jeff was still here as economic development, we've talked with Jeff when he was here, and we did not get to the demo portion before he was unable to join us and stay in Sydney. So we're looking to use this to help us with event planning, looking forward, looking backwards to see where maybe we could realign our marketing strategies, as Rodney pointed out. If we spend all our money, or not just us, but Oktoberfest, for example, I'm going to pick on them since he pulled them up. If they were spreading posters all over Sterling and spending their time down in Sterling, where we're pulling more people from Scotts Bluff or Ogallala, and we see opportunities, we can use this data to help us reevaluate where we put our resources to get the most out of it. Oh, and we're also, he mentioned very briefly, he can do traffic analysis with this program, so we can see how traffic gets off of I-80 and how they get to downtown, because that's my goal as tourism director, and we definitely want them up on the hill spending their money, but I want to drive people downtown to spend even more money with our local businesses. So we're working on a wayfinding signage package that we've been working on for years, and I'm hoping I'm getting very close with that, but making sure we have signs in the right place to make sure, are people going up 385, that link, or are they coming down and going down 11th to come downtown? How we can best direct traffic to make sure they do make it downtown when they're here visiting.
All right, and from a tourism standpoint, you guys all actually offer grants to events that keep people here, and one of the main reason to have an event is to bring people into town, not to just for that single event, but to eat, sleep, and go to other places, stuff that we can also track using this.
Yes. Yes, that's the number one question I get. Even our event, the people that put on events in the area, they ask me if I have any data, and I never have. This would be a really great opportunity for us to give answers and help them plan for next year to make it even bigger and better.
Awesome. Any other questions for representing the tourism? Well, thank you. I appreciate you addressing us and giving us some insight into what you guys are seeing. So, Brandy, what you'd like to know is if the council would like to approve this or not.
Yes, approves the purchase of a 1-year contract with Placer AA.
All right. Is there a motion?
I would make that motion.
Motion by Radcliffe. Second by Stroman. Roll call, please.
Buckner,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Longegaard,
No.
Stroman.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 4-1 to approve the purchase of some Placer AI.
Thanks, Phyllis. I would like to round that off with, once again, I have a very open door for discussion. Anyone from the public, anyone from the council, if you have questions regarding what economic development is doing, what we're trying to accomplish, anyone can come talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy.
And I think I'm up again next.
You are.
Oh, well, just stay right there and let us know about the Rural Community Recovery Program Fund.
Yeah, so last meeting, I brought it to council that we wanted to go for another grant for the Northside Park. This one is the RCRP, the Rural Community Recovery Program Fund. And upon getting further information after that meeting, we don't have a match for that grant. And that particular point of contact pointed out that we should go for the full amount of what we believe the park will cost us, just in case the other grant doesn't work. So I raised the amount we're going to go for that grant from $800,000 to $2 million, with the exception of we drop it to what we need it once we know how much we need for that Northside Park. and that's just an update.
So you are asking for permission to attempt for a grant for $2 million for the Northside Park. Up to,
Yeah.
up to $2 million.
So since we don't have a match, I did consult legal about the change, and she did not see the harm in just making the change. And so we spoke with Paul afterwards and just changed it. So this was an update because we have no legal match. We have no stake in the game except for we may or may not get this grant. So it's just an update.
Okay. Oh, so we're just letting us know.
I'm just letting you know.
Well, we appreciate
If
you.
we could have more money for the North Side Park, I think that's fantastic.
I think so. I think it'd be really good if we could get the full cost of that covered and get something great for our north side of town.
I do agree. Thank you for working on that for us.
I'm trying. It's a lot of work. Thanks, guys.
All right, Cheyenne County Chamber.
Evening. I'm Becky Rowan, chairman of the board for the chamber.
I'm Kendra Mitchell, different hat this time. I am the past chairperson for the chamber board.
Yep, go for it.
As you know, every year, the city has partnered with the chamber for as long as I can remember. They help us with a number of different economic development chores and tasks that help our Department of One get a little bit more done. This agreement that we're bringing tonight doesn't have a lot of changes from the one we had last year, but we did meet with
It's Paul's.
Okay.
Paul, do you want to mute your microphone?
Anyway, we're just trying to make it a little more streamlined, so while they're there, they can collect some information from that company or that business that both Brandy and I would need. As you remember, here, last year, we got recertified again for another 5 years to be an economic development certified city, which is a huge, huge benefit to the city to have that status. But part of doing that is meeting with so many businesses a year and collecting so much information on them and how they're doing, what they think we could do better, what we could, what we're doing great. And so we figured they're talking to them, we're talking to them, we might as well have them collect some of that data. So there's just little things like that in there that we tried to make it more streamlined so that we're a little bit more efficient working together with the chamber rather than both of us doing the same thing for different tasks. But I don't think there's any other major changes in the agreement from last year other than some of those simple little things like that. We just tried to make it a little more efficient between the two. And we thank you guys for working with us too very much.
Absolutely.
Well, I can certainly say one of my favorite things to say is I love it when everybody works together. So, it's not Paul.
Who's next?
What's that?
Who's next to try muting?
I was thinking if we stay really still, I think we're gonna be okay. With that being said, anybody have any questions before we ask for a motion to approve the contract? Anybody with their mic on want to say something? All right, well then I will ask for a motion to approve the chamber contract.
I'll approve, I'll motion.
Motion by Bondegard. Second by Stroman. Roll call, please.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
Buckner?
Perfect. Motion passes
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you,
Thank
ladies,
you.
very much. All right. David, your shot at the Northside Park.
Yeah.
design.
We need to plan that a little bit again. We're gonna put those two right next to each other, huh?
Well, we're gonna say word.
If you remember right, when we first talked about the Game and Park grant,
here about 3 meetings ago, and then also this other grant. Mostly the game and park one, we get extra bonus points for having kind of a design. I think with any grant, you probably do better if you have a plan, right? You're not just asking for money blindly. And I came to the council 2 meetings ago, and the council said, yes, please move forward with putting out a bid to see what it would cost or who all would be interested in doing a design for us. And we did that. We put that out to bid. We had 2 companies come back with bids. One was Brickyard Consulting out of Shadron, Nebraska. The other was RDG out of Omaha, Nebraska. And I have both of their bids in the packet. The one from Brickyard came in to do the preliminary design at $30,000, and then RDG's came in at $49,400. So what I was wanting to know now is, now that we have this, we're recommending that we go with Brickyard, since it's well, for one, it's a little closer, and 2, it's much cheaper than what RDG had put together for us. So what we're asking now is the council to approve moving forward with Brickyard. Now, we will ask for these funds to be reimbursed if we should receive either one of these grants through those grants, but if not, this funding would come from your portion of the local option sales tax dedicated towards the park.
So there's a chance that we could get this money reimbursed that we spend on
Yes. I know the game and park one will let you retro back, and I don't know about the other one, I'm sorry.
Are you comfortable with this Brickyard outfit? We've never used them before, right?
We've not, no, I know, it's an interesting conversation. We've used RDG for a number of things, and you're right, we've not used this Brickyard before. We spent a lot of time actually talking about whether we wanted to ask the council to approve a higher amount and go with the company that we knew. But the group ultimately decided that they thought maybe we should try this group out, and they are very heavily on engineering. A lot of the stuff that RDG talked about, one of the part of that led into our decision to recommending Brickyard was RDG talked a lot about designing and layout, things like that. And Brickyard's agreement talked a lot more about a percentage of engineering you'll have at a specific point. And I think that gives us a little bit more clout. I mean, pictures and drawings are great, but when you say you have a 30, 40, 60% design with engineers, I think that we thought that might hold a little bit more clout with a granting agency. So that was one of the reasons why we chose to go with that company. That, you're right, they've only been around for a few years, and they are and we've not used them before, where we have used RDG in the past.
That was my only concern, and RDG, you might have someone who's specializes in park designs, I mean, I didn't know. I know it is a lot more money, so.
Yeah, RDG does, theirs did give a lot more examples of specific parks, but their examples were, RDG's examples of parks were not from this area. They were mostly from the larger cities near Lincoln and Omaha. They were like these big, $4 and $5 million parks that they were building, grandiose things with bridges that go over, whatever, lakes and things like that. And I'm sure that's great, and I'm sure they would do fine with a smaller park, but most of the examples they gave were much more grandiose type parks in larger cities. And if council wants to use RDG, we can do that too. I mean, we can. I'd be happy with
Just
either one.
questioning, just.
They were both super qualified. It was really hard for us. That's always the hardest process, when you get more than, a few, and they're all really very qualified.
Any questions? Let's see if there's a motion to go through with the Northside Park design.
Okay, and is this for going with Brickyard, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. Going with the Northside Park design by Brickyard Consulting. And Mr. Buckner,
I'll second.
for you so kindly corrected me on my.
I'll second.
And then the second by Radcliffe. Roll call, please.
Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Sondergaard?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
Butler? Sherman?
Yes. Thank you, David, for that.
I think I'm next again, too.
And we have to pick a strategic planning date.
Yeah, we last visited this in March, and the council at that time did indicate that they definitely wanted to just keep doing this every 3 months. And I think it's a good idea, honestly. There are a lot of things happening with economic development, and specifically in the area of land use that is in our plan that we probably need to meet. I don't know that we've had that much activity. There's some people interested in our industrial park, and I know there are a lot of groups interested in other pieces of city land. I think somebody's here tonight to talk about something like that. So I think it's a good idea to meet again like we intended to do anyway, I guess. But I just gave you guys some dates so that you can look at your calendars and pick and see what you think would be best. These all work good for the council room, availability, and city staff and things like that, so. It's most of it, there's one late June 26th and then a couple early Julys, the 2nd and the 8th were. I know some council members like to do lunch, some of them like to do later in the day, so I gave both options and let you guys decide.
They all work for me.
I'm saying I can't do Wednesday.
So when?
So you're in July then?
Tuesday or Monday in July.
Yeah, June 26th is out for me too. So July 2nd or the 8th? Is everybody
Either
okay
one
with
works
either one of
me.
those?
Either one works for me.
Second one's
July 2nd, Tuesday, the week before the council meeting.
Yes.
So Tuesday, Tuesday at lunch? I'm gonna take the rest of the day off and then go back to work.
Skip out.
That's another idea. Tuesday, July 2nd at noon.
Okay. That gives you enough time, Lori, to get that posted for July 2nd? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Kagan, would you love to come talk to us about our budget?
No. Yeah, BMX.
Sean, I apologize. We were partners on the. I know, and I was just gonna let everybody know that you were robbed in that thing, and should be the reigning champion of the big wheel race, but
I'm a little
we
bitter.
won't go into that.
Yep. Sensitive subject still.
Yeah.
I believe it was September that I brought this BMX track idea up. It's been some time. We did visit with some neighboring properties to that old location, and they were not a fan of the potential of noise. So Doug and I, we reevaluated, and there is an empty lot right next to the swimming pool. And we haven't gone door to door asking about noise there, because we assume that they back to a city water park and baseball field, so we don't think noise would be a problem there. There's about a little over 2 acres that we think would be usable for a BMX track and a pump track for bicycles. Did you guys get, I believe I handed this out last.
Nothing included in here.
Nothing.
All I got was request to be on the agenda.
When you say pump and BMX, this is not motorized, right? This is.
Not motorized, no.
Or
bicycle.
electric powered.
Yep. It would be, the BMX track would be a sprint track. It's just a one lap, so to speak. And then the pump track would be, more of a endless, where children could just endless go around a pump track. There'd be no jumps, it would just be rollers, safe for all ages. Even the BMX track would be safe for all ages. There's 4-year-olds that race BMX. So I guess and Doug left me hanging again. Doug. I guess we're just seeking permission to use that empty lot for the future BMX track, targeting the 10 to 15-year-old children of our community.
Yeah, now I personally, am not against the track, and certainly support things for kids to do in town. I just don't know if we need to, actually earmark this land at this time. Support, because, from the last time we did it, we didn't have any, there was nothing being done from then until now. And so it was, I'm just saying from my standpoint, I'd like to see some momentum, some fundraising, some, you know, the group be out there doing some stuff. And then when we were really close to doing that, we would certainly not mind committing to it. And that's just my personal opinion. These gentlemen may feel differently, but I support it wholeheartedly. I think this is just a presentation. We don't need to approve anything tonight anyway, right? So, and you understand what I'm saying, that I support it wholeheartedly. I think that, you know, if you come back to us with a bunch of money and support, we'd certainly let you put it there. I don't think, and again, I don't know if we have exhausted all of our potential property or anything like that as well, but.
That what you're saying now is the exact same answer you gave to the dog park people when they asked about it.
This is the same land, right?
It's the same land.
Yeah, and that's.
We told them they needed the same thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying is, you know, I would love to support it. I think we kind of did the same thing with the basketball place that we have over there, and you know, and the fundraising efforts, and we certainly again support everything at this time, and just like I said, we're obviously not approving anything at this point anyway, but just be aware that we do support you, but we may not have this land at the time. Is all I'm saying. Does that make sense?
You're not going to have this land at the time, or
I'm just saying, I can't promise. I'm not.
Oh.
We're not making you a promise tonight. We're making you. We're giving you our support, or at least I'm giving you your support currently. And then, you know, we want you to move forward with this. We want it to be successful, and we would love to have it there.
So you'd like to see a bigger interest or a following?
Yeah.
Or
As a matter of fact, do you guys have a fundraiser planned, or do you have the money already?
we don't.
Okay.
We plan on applying for grants when we have. I guess we were thinking about getting a property locked in before we started that, but we could try to start that first.
Okay. Well, and you know, David and Brandy probably have some experience with grants, but you know, if that ends up being a point of conflict in your grant, certainly come back with us, and we can look into that at that point.
It's mainly going to be built with volunteers, or Doug has the equipment to do most of it, and or renting equipment.
So you don't need a whole lot of money.
We're not
You
asking
just need
for
a
any.
spot, and
We're
then
not
you guys will
asking for.
start building it as soon as we say yes.
Yes, we're not asking for any money at this time.
Okay, right. But I mean, I'm just saying to move forward from where we were a year ago to where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, to clarify, you're saying this is gonna cost $65,000, but now you're saying that you don't need any money and you can start.
We're not asking the city.
Right, but if the city said, go, you could go do this soon?
We could start moving dirt.
Okay.
We don't have an action item. So.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, we can't, but if you I guess if you want to come back,
Okay,
we will put it on as an action item and then go from there.
okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
It might help to come back after your strategic planning session, so you have a chance to talk about,
Yes.
like, your land use. Just pointing that out.
All right.
Which is July 2nd, by the way.
July 2nd at noon. All right, now, I apologize for getting everybody excited about the budget report, but here it is now.
Good evening, Council. Finance Director Kagan Carwin. Jumping into May, was a good month overall. Looking at the general fund revenue breakdown, our property tax was up 138.4K. Majority of this obviously lands towards the property tax side. Jumping down to sales and occupation tax, this was down 26K from LY, but we are still up on previous years. Also to note that this is March, so our sales and occupation tax is 2 months backdated. So in theory, that's the month we are looking at. For state, federal, and county reimbursements, this is flat to down $640. Again, transportation bus is doing their due diligence and pushing the state to get the reimbursements out as quick as possible. Casey's done a great job at making sure everything's put in at an adequate time and getting those good reimbursements figured out and filled out. So I know we are sitting in a good situation there. Franchise admin fees down 3.1K to last year. This is mainly from a gas franchise fee and telephone fees being down. We're doing a little bit more research, making sure that those do come back up here into the coming months, and that is in the current trend that we see going forward. Other would be our bank interest. We're up 3.2K. Again, interest rates are great. We're going to continue to, utilize that any way that we can going forward. Looking at a yearly breakdown across the board, each and every one of these areas is positive. The only downfall of that is the sales and occupation tax. As we talked last month, we took that big revenue hike from prior sales tax that hadn't been paid. So unfortunately, we're not going to catch that trend again. Nobody's going to drop another 4 years worth of sales tax in our lap. Hopefully, everybody's paying that within the 30 days required. But I don't see any concerns right now with the general fund revenue breakdown. I think we're sitting in a good situation. We're positive. Everything's moving forward. So, kind of looking down into the revenues and expenditures from the department levels, each and every one of them has done their due diligence to make sure that they're following in line. May was a great month for everybody. The landfill popped out there, even with the purchase of that new loader, that they had a positive month. So we're seeing a lot of traction across the board financially. Street obviously took a hit, but we do have a lot of expenses coming out of there with the Forest Street project, which is being paid for with highway allocation money. But again, we can see that the general fund was positive as well. So a lot of money moving around and in a positive way for the city. Jumping over to our yearly notes, really everybody's positive. They're doing their due diligence. We're working to keep everything in line, and we'll see where those trends go here in the next months, but I can't imagine that anything's going to pop out in a negative way. Obviously, you'll see that the landfill is down the 47K. Obviously, we did had an unbudgeted purchase with that loader, but like I said, landfill is coming back around, and he's doing a great job at keeping revenue flowing in, and with all the expansion of houses, with some of that coming in through the construction side, he's seeing an upswing there too. So, any questions?
We're ready to let you go, it looks like.
Cool, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
We need a motion to approve the meeting, or the budget. I'm just really worried about what's going on at the end of this meeting. I'm just not focused at all right now.
I move.
So, Bondegaard makes a motion to
Second.
approve the budget, and Radcliffe made the second, so let's roll call, please.
Bonnecar,
Yes.
Strowman,
Yes.
Beckner,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Radcliffe.
Yes.
All right. We are at claims that were done by Brandon last month.
They all look good.
Everything good there? We have a motion to approve the claims for May.
I'll move.
Motion by Bondegard, second by Stroman. Roll call, please.
Stroman?
Yes.
Buckner?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Reckler?
Yes.
Sondemire?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 to approve the May claims. David is now getting ready to do the city manager's report.
I have a couple things. Forestry project is moving along nicely. They should be paving the centerpiece. They've already done all the curb and gutter, water lines are in, they're up and running. They'll be doing the final centerpiece of those 2 blocks between 17th and 19th here in the next week or two, so that's kind of what their schedule is in the next 2 weeks to do that. They will start tearing up the next 2 blocks between 19th and 20th of Forest. That will overlap a little bit because while the pavement is curing there for its usual 7-day cure, they will start tearing up the next year. So all 4 blocks will be closed for about a week and a half, and then at the most, and then it'll be back to just 18th to 20th, but they're by the park, and the other 2 blocks will be completely done and open to the public. So that's where we're at on that one. The parking lot and trails project, the pool is done now. The trails are connected. I'm getting tons of compliments from people about how that connects that pool to the trail system. I don't know how many people have come up to me and said that just looks fantastic, and they love it. And ultimately, like we said, it's gonna keep kids off the busy streets, so that's important. Where they are working now is on 14th and Jackson. They're doing a storm drain there. There's 2 churches on that intersection. Always seem to get flooding way up into their yards, and it's always been a bad spot. It's been on our plan for a long time, and we were just fortunate enough to kind of include it in this package as well. So that's where they're at right now. They will be closing, just for the public to know, and I think we've got it on our website and or social media, that they will be closing that intersection in its entirety of 14th and Jackson for about 2 weeks here, starting I think tomorrow, because they need to cut across Jackson Street now. They've got all those lines laid in from Illinois to Jackson, but now they've got to cut across to get to it. So that will close that intersection for probably a couple weeks, because I'll have to put the storm drain pipe in and then pour the concrete in and kind of go out to sit for 7 days. So it's probably gonna be a couple weeks that will be closed, so just so the public knows that. Also, the solar project is gonna be doing a groundbreaking on the 18th at 10 a.m. So hopefully, maybe the mayor or some council members really wants to show up for that. That would really be great. So that's moving forward. Marshall and I have had several conversations with them. They've already started to lay some things down out there and start staging, so that's good. And as soon as they finish their permitting, which I think we just now got the structurals yesterday.
Correct.
So they will probably start moving forward as soon as Marshall gets time to review those. That
So this-
project's moving forward.
This grand opening or groundbreaking is going to be out there where the.
Yeah, out there on Elm Street, East Elm, kind of by the entrance to the old, or the current recycling plant, so that's where that will be. I wanted to mention another thing, because I know a lot of the public has asked about it. We will be moving forward with bidding out the 13th Street underpass repairs. That's been a long process, and I'm glad that people have been patient with us. The damage was very significant. So we had to get structural and engineering done on it so that we would know what to ask that person's insurance company for. And it's well over $100,000. The estimates are to do that repair, because I'll have to take out those 2 pole panels, and they'll have to have one-way traffic with flaggers, sending people back and forth for at least a specific amount of time. But we are gonna we'll have something probably to you in the next meeting packet, to a bid proposal to put out to see, who all would be interested in doing that work for us. Now that we know exactly what it's, or not exactly, but an estimate of what it's gonna cost and how to deal with the insurance companies on that. That's what they've been wanting to get from us. So, and we finally have that now, so I wanted to just let you know where we were on that. I know a lot of people have asked about that lately. And that's all I had, other than I thought, I did attend both the trash race, which was fantastic, by the way. Keep Saying Beautiful's in the room tonight. That was a great event. I had a great time, actually. I thought picking up garbage could be so fun, but you guys made it fun, so, kudos to you. It really was a good event. And then Gold Rush Days, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna need a bigger park, I think. Everything just keeps growing and growing and growing. So with that, that's all I have.
We always have the baseball field, so it's right next door.
Yeah.
All right. Lori, when's that, farmer's market firing up? What's going on over there?
Farmers Market starts June 29th, and we have 20 vendors so far signed up.
So far, room for more.
Yeah, lots of room for more.
Fantastic. That is a great thing. Appreciate that. Jay is going to give the same comments she always does, whether she's here or not, so it's going to be perfect. Marshall?
It's all good.
Autumn? Amanda?
So, I always have something to say. If you don't normally read the Inspire Today magazine, I highly recommend you pick it up this time. Eileen Nightingale is featured in an article in the senior living section, and she's been working at the library for a really long time, and is one of the favorite people of many of our patrons. And she's a little shy, and she's actually a little embarrassed about the whole thing, but it's a really nice article, and it just highlights what a great employee she is, so please take a look. And our summer reading program has already kicked off. If you haven't signed up already, you still have time. We already have 74 adults, 18 teens, and 114 kids signed up.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So it's really going to be a good one this year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Brandy?
I just want to thank and apologize to the council for bringing the hard stuff to you. I know that some decisions are not easy to make. Not going to be that problem child this time, sorry.
That's not one bit what we were thinking at all.
Uh-huh.
Hagan, what do I want to know?
It's all good. 22 views and currently 7 viewers. So, on par. We're up a little bit from the last couple of weeks.
Probably because
Sorry,
I'm
fall,
back. All right, we know that's not it. All right, that's it. Thank you. Joe?
With temperatures increasing and stuff, we're encouraging people more ever to keep their animals in shaded areas and not keep them in vehicles. It's very dangerous to leave animals and children inside of vehicles during those hot weather, and we ask people just to be conscious of that.
Appreciate that. There you go. We're over to you, Brandon.
Nothing.
Burke?
I wanted to comment on the sidewalk getting done, and I was sitting here wondering if we wanted to get the word out about that, how could we maybe get the word out there that that sidewalk's done? Maybe a story with some kids walking on it or something would be a really good idea. I have a friend that lives pretty close to there, and he didn't even know that this was an option. He told me we needed to run that sidewalk all along Fort Sidney Road, and I'm like, no, we have this figured out. And he didn't know, and he lives really close to there, so I thought, maybe we should get the word out a little bit. And just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm done. And the kids will still walk down it, by the way. We can't change that, but if they at least know that they have an option, it'd be helpful.
Paul?
Nothing this evening.
Wow. Brock? Well, I'm gonna write that. All right. So, first and foremost, always enjoy people working together to work things out. Appreciate the comments, the people coming to the meetings. Always makes me happy. My phone number is 249-2321. If you ever need to ask me any questions, suggestions, or whatever, come to the meetings. We'll figure something out. And again, to working together, what a great weekend we had. I was at Gold Rush Days, and I needed a pair of pliers. And I got them from our librarian. So for those of you that don't think she comes prepared, she's got darn near everything you would need there. And so again, Gold Rush Days, huge attendance. There was a poker tournament, a pool tournament, a road race, a golf tournament, and even a rap concert in town this weekend, and a pie contest. And I just want to put it out there right now is I'm not upset, but it would have been nice to be a judge at a pie contest. So in the future, anybody wants to have a pie contest, I will pay $100 to be the judge at your pie contest. So, that comes with no minimum requirement of what I'm gonna eat, just so you know. I'm trying to get close to my $100. But yes, right after, you can call me at 249-2321 for your pie contest details, and I will certainly be there. And again, great public comments, appreciate the interaction. We are going to have a strategic plan and a budget coming up. We would love all the input we can. If you can't make it to a meeting, you can certainly call me at 249-2321, and we can make sure your suggestions make it to the table. So now, for those who are wondering, we're going to have a closed session for contract negotiations. And then shortly afterwards, I will be accepting a pie in the face that Brandy paid to get to do, which concerns me.
That's for a good cause.
Yeah, and it is. It's for a good cause, because it was for Keep Sydney Beautiful, who did a great job on the first, and always doing a great job making sure Sydney is beautiful for all of its citizens. But I'm gonna get 3 times.
No.
And do we have more pies in case somebody else wants to get hit in the face with a pie? I don't know, you did it. I was getting ready to end the meeting, and you said 3 pies, and I'm like. But anyway, unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait until after our closed session for contract agreement, or negotiations, to do that. So, with that being said, we are going to make a motion to go into closed session, at which point you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Do we have a motion to go into closed session? Motion by Buckner, second by Stroman. Roll call, please.
Buckner?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Radcliffe?
Yes.
Baumgarten?
Yes.
Stroman?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 5-0 to go into closed session for contract negotiations. So thank you all for coming. And thank you all for clearing the room quietly and safely. And if you want to gather around back here is where the pie in the face is going to take